Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 and the remaining part of the previous lecture of World War II. This video consists of the major and important events of the World War II. There were a series of ceaseless conflicts, battles that had really shaken the world order between 1939 to 45, that how countries were indulged in unstoppable aggression which had destroyed the world's geography. Most specifically, battles were fought from the side of aggressive nations, including Germany, Italy, and Japan. They had aimed at invading, annexing, and conquering the world. Um, let's begin with the events of World War II, which were the actual course of the war, which includes that German aggression towards the Treaty of Versailles, Japan's expansionism and its attack on the Pearl Harbor, and it joining hand with the dictators of Germany and Japan. So, events of the World War II, that how war spread during the 1940. So the first course of war was the Soviet Finnish War. अब ये जो war थी ना, this in this war the USSR attacked Finland in 1939, and that was a winter war. It started in winters. So Finland ने surrender कर दिया था to Soviet in 1940, and then they signed a Moscow peace treaty in which Finland जो था ना, उस they had made a territorial concession, and then later that year Soviet also occupied Latvia and Lithuania, and then Estonia, and some other territories were also annexed from Romania as well. So yes, Soviet Finnish War was all about this, that a war was fought between the Soviet and Finland. Then there was this the second war, which was the invasion of Denmark and Norway. So that was how Germany vanquished. Germany ने बहुत easily जो है ना डेनमार्क और नॉर्वे को इन्वेट किया था in 1940, and in part to counter invade Norway, Denmark did not resist. उसे बिल्कुल resist नहीं किया था, and Norway ने फिर भी fought किया था back. It fought back with Germany, but that was not the case with Denmark. So in the Allies were defeated and German forces were in control of most of the Norway. So that's how that Norwegian army had surrendered, and Denmark को भी उसने invade कर लिया था Germany ने. Then there was this invasion of France and Low Countries. Low Countries here, it's referring towards the weak countries. ठीक है, तो in 1940 the Germans were the first to invade Luxembourg and Belgium and Netherlands, and then France. That was a time when it was referred to as the ending of a phony war, because that was a war which was including a very less amount of ground battle. तो बहुत आसानी से मतलब जर्मनी को कोई मुश्किल नहीं हुई थी to invade these smaller and weaker nations. So in June, then in the same year, later Italy joined a war and it attacked France in the south, and German forces then continued to conquest France. So फिर France ने जो है ना armistice sign की थी with Germany in 1940, and that led to the establishment of a puppet government in an unoccupied part of France. तो बहुत जर्मनी ने बहुत आसानी से जो है ना फ्रांस को कैप्चर कर लिया था, and then it was able to install a puppet government in France. ठीक है, जो जर्मनी की बातें मानेगी. Then there was this battle of Britain. It was a clash of Britain. ठीक है, it was fought between Germany and UK. हिम्मत देख रहे हैं आप जर्मनी की, वैसे इतना ताकतवर है. Hitler was basically debating like where and how to invade Britain and or Russia. So, following the defeat of France, Britain chose to fight. Like obviously, it was kind of a stronger nation. तो जर्मनी ने क्या किया कि it began preparation in 1940 and to invade Britain, while Okay, so Germany's initial goal was to gain the air control over Britain by defeating the Royal Air Force. इसकी ब्रिटेन की जो फोर्स है ना, एयर फोर्स, उसको रॉयल एयर फोर्स कहते हैं. सो ये था, देयर वाज दिस ऑपरेशन एज वेल, सी ऑपरेशन, विच वाज पोस्टपोन एंड इवेंचुअली कैंसल्ड. तो इसमें वैसे इट वाज क्लियर दैट एयर सुपीरियॉरिटी ओवर इंग्लैंड वुड बी डिफ़िकल्ट टू अटेन. ये जर्मनी को क्लियर था कि मतलब मुश्किल है ब्रिटेन को इन्वेट करना. इंस्टेड हिटलर टर्न्ड हिज अटेंशन टू रशिया. For both Germany and Britain, this combat was a new kind of warfare because prior to the starting of World War II, जो हिटलर था ना, उसके एलाइज थे सोवियत के साथ, यूएसएसआर के साथ. ठीक है, आपको समझ आ रही है ना. लेकिन वर्ल्ड वॉर टू जब when there was this midway of the World War II, 1940 पे जो है ना, हिटलर ने अपनी स्ट्रैटेजी को कन्वर्ट किया और उसने यूएसएसआर की तरफ टर्न कर दिया. एंड दैट वाज the new strategy, and this combat was a new kind of a warfare. Then there was this allied conference. ये था एक अटलांटिक चार्टर था, एंड इट वाज अ जॉइंट डिक्लेरेशन बाय चर्चिल. चर्चिल जो था वो यूके का प्रेसिडेंट था. रूजवेल्ट जो था दैट वाज यूएस प्रेसिडेंट. तो ये दो कंट्रीज़ के बीच में दिस जॉइंट कॉन्फ्रेंस एंड डिक्लेरेशन वाज साइंड. एंड इन 1941 चर्चिल मेट रूजवेल्ट एट आर्केडिया कॉन्फ्रेंस, एंड दे एग्रीड दैट डिफीटिंग जर्मनी हैड प्रायोरिटी ओवर डिफीटिंग जापान. इन्होंने कहा था कि मतलब जर्मनी को रोकना है किसी भी सूरत में, बिकॉज जर्मनी इज़ गेटिंग आउट ऑफ हैंड्स. इसको कंट्रोल करना है, एंड वी हैव टू स्टॉप द एग्रेसिव पॉलिसीज ऑफ हिटलर. Italy's role in the war and Italy's entrance in World War II. So there was this North African campaign, which was this was a battle between Italy and UK in Africa. It was fought in Africa. तो इटली ने क्या किया ना कि इसने इट डिक्लेयर्ड वॉर ऑन फ्रांस एंड ब्रिटेन इन 1940, विच चैलेंज्ड ब्रिटिश सुप्रीमेसी ऑफ द मेडिटेरियन. ठीक है, तो इटालियन ट्रूप्स दे बेसिकली इन्वेडेड एंड कैप्चर्ड ब्रिटिश का एक एरिया था, सोमाली लैंड उसको कहते हैं, वो जो है ना इटली ने कैप्चर कर लिया था इन अगस्त 1940 में. ठीक है, लेकिन दिस दिस ये जो इटालियन फोर्सेस थे ना इन लीबिया, दे अटैक्ड ब्रिटिश फोर्सेस इन इजिप्ट. तो इससे बना था मसला, बिकॉज द मेन एम वाज टू मेक इजिप्ट एन इटालियन पोजेशन. So then German forces landed in Libya and renewed the assault on Egypt. और फिर नॉर्थ अफ्रीकन कैंपेन was basically a serious defeat to the Axis power, क्योंकि नहीं हरा सकते ना ब्रिटिश को इतनी आसानी से, जितना आसान इसको मौसलिनी ने समझा था. तो दिस ऑल्सो मार्क द फर्स्ट मेजर इन्वॉल्वमेंट इन द यूरोपियन थिएटर बाय द यूएस फोर्सेस, क्योंकि यूएस ने इंटरवीन कर ली थी. बेसिकली हमेशा कोई भी बैटल हो, वेदर इफ़ आई टेक इन टू कंसिड्रेशन द वर्ल्ड वॉर टू, यूएस जो है बिल्कुल व्हेन देयर वाज दिस वर्ल्ड वॉर वन, तो बिल्कुल बीच में आ गया था. और सिमिलरली इन वर्ल्ड वॉर टू एज़ वेल, तो यूएस इंटर की जो एंट्री थी वो बिल्कुल मिड में हुई थी. तो देयर इज़ दिस इन्वेजन ऑफ ग्रीस. ये भी इटली ने इट ईज़िली इन्वेडेड ग्रीस एंड फ्रॉम द बेसिस इन अल्बानिया. एंड ये ग्रीक टेरिटरी थी अल्बानिया, वो इटली ने बहुत इजीली इन्वेड कर ली थी. एंड दिस देयर वाज दिस देन इसकी इटली मौसलिनी ने जो इन्वेजन्स की थी, इसको जो है ना देख रहा था ब्रिटेन भी, यूएस भी. तो वो उन्होंने क्या किया कि दे टुक द स्ट्रिक्ट एक्शन अगेंस्ट मौसलिनी. And then there was this Italian mainland that the day after the fall of Sicily, Italy, सिसली एक जगह है इटली में. एंड देन फाशिस्ट रूलर जो था बेनितो मौसलिनी, ही वाज ओवरथ्रोन by a peaceful coup. So that was the time like Italy officially surrendered and by to the Allies power in 1943. तो अगर हम इटलीज रोल इन द वॉर देखें तो इन सम इटलीज पार्टिसिपेशन इन वर्ल्ड वॉर टू प्रोवाइडेड वेरी लिटिल स्ट्रेटेजिक बेनिफिट टू जर्मनी, क्योंकि वैसे अगर हम देखें एनालिटिकली तो जर्मनी को कोई ऐसा सच फ़ायदा नहीं हुआ था। जर्मनी तो इट वाज फाइटिंग ऑन इट्स ओन। वो तो बहुत हिटलर वाज सो डिटर्मिन्ड एंड वो बहुत एम्बिशियस था। ही वॉज अ वेरी पावरफुल फाशिस्ट रूलर। उसने जो भी किया था वो अब खुद किया था। ही नेवर टुक एनी सजेशन और एडवाइस इनटू हिज कंसिडरेशन, बिल्कुल। तो that was a very very little benefit for Germany. But अगर हम देखें तो in fact it actually hindered the Germans war effort by because by diverting German forces from the main important task, क्योंकि जो हुआ था Germany wanted to focus on the Soviet front, ठीक है। लेकिन due to this Italy's invasion of Greece, तो it diverted Hitler's ये हिटलर को जो है ना वो कर दिया था, डाइवर्ट कर दिया था, ठीक है, कि वो आके इस मौसोलिनी की हेल्प करे। लेकिन सो इट दीज वर बेसिकली ऑब्स्टिकल फॉर द हिटलर। सो बैटल्स दैट रिजल्टेड फ्रॉम इटलीज initially were aimless campaigns becoming increasingly devastating. So battles on the Italian mainland between the Allied and German forces proved to be more devastating. War becomes global in 1941. How a war became global, World War II became global because there was these two theaters, the European theater and the Pacific theater, and सारी दुनिया बस वॉर में जो है ना पड़ गई थी। एवरी कंट्री वॉज फाइटिंग टुवर्ड्स एवरी स्टेट, ठीक है। मुझे इधर हॉब्स की वो याद आ गई statement that in state of nature there was a constant, it was kind of a constant warfare, that it was a war of everyone against everyone, it was a war of every man against every man. Anyhow, हम इसको देखेंगे that which battles were fought on the European theater and what events included in the Pacific theater. So okay, so the Pacific theater, and this was the total course of war. So tensions in the Pacific. There was this Sino-Japan war. Sino China को बोलते हैं, China-Japan war. A war had begun in the eastern part of Asia before the World War II had started in Europe. In 1939, Japan, after occupying the Manchurian, launched another attack against China near Beijing, and the capital city of Nanking also fell to the Japanese, and Japanese forces then committed brutal, continuous atrocities against civilians and prisoners of war. The Chinese had successfully defended their land, but uh, you know there was a lot of resistance seen in areas occupied by the Japanese, and which made the victory seem impossible to the Japanese. So the second is that the Pearl Harbor, Japan on USA. जापान ने क्या किया ना कि it started a surprise attack on the Pearl Harbor, which was a naval base of the US. So in 1941, the US began an oil embargo against Japan. Embargo क्या होता है कि ये हम इंटरनेशनल लॉ में पढ़ते हैं, ये peaceful settlements of disputes and coercive settlements of disputes. Coercive settlements of disputes involved this is one of the method. Embargo एक है, पैसिफिक ब्लॉकेड है, और भी हैं बहुत सारे सैंक्शंस हैं। तो ये चीज़ें जो है ना ये दे आर द कोर्सिव सेटलमेंट्स ऑफ डिस्प्यूट्स। तो ये जापान यूएस ने लगाया था जापान पे, ठीक है। तो फिर इसके बाद जापान ने क्या किया कि it planned to attack on Pearl Harbor to cripple the US. So on 7 December, a Japanese carrier fleet launched a surprise air attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and that raid resulted in 2 US battleships sunk and 6 were damaged. So that was the time when US prepared for the war, and it was a US entrance and the Battle of Midway. इसमें क्या हुआ था कि द फॉलोइंग डे ऑन 8 December the US declared war on Japan. China then it was obvious that it would declare war on Japan, क्योंकि जापान ने तो बहुत ज़्यादती की थी ना चाइना के साथ. Now that Germany was an Axis power and he was the ally with Japan, fascist ruler थे ना, दोनों dictators थे, तो they were friends, ठीक है. तो जर्मनी ने अपने दोस्त की साइड ली जापान की, और उसने जर्मनी ने यूएस पे अटैक लॉन्च, इट डिक्लेयर्ड वॉर ऑन यूएस, ठीक है. So Hitler hoped that Japan would support Germany by attacking the Soviet Union, क्योंकि जर्मनी तो उस टाइम सोवियत की तरफ लड़ रहा था. But Japan did not oblige, and this diplomatic move by Hitler proved to be a catastrophic blunder which unified the American public support for the war. And then Japan, however, it invaded Philippines and British colonies of Hong Kong and Peninsula and Burma, Malaya and Guam as well. So despite this fierce resistance by American, Philippines, British, Canadian and Indian forces, all these territories were capitulated by the Japanese in, a matter of month, a matter of no time. तो द ब्रिटिश का जो आइलैंड है फोर्ट्रेस ऑफ सिंगापुर was captured what Churchill ने इसको Churchill considered it to be the most humiliating British defeats of all time. So Japan suffered a catastrophic defeat, and thus US was now at war with both Japan and Germany and able to enter fully into its alliance with British. So the European theatre. So there was this Lend Lease. It was signed by the U.S. President Roosevelt in the same time in 1941, March 11. This program was a first large step away from the American isolationism, providing for substantial assistance to UK and the Soviet Union and other countries which were fighting against the Axis power. Then there was this Germany intervention and invasion of Greece and Yugoslavia. जर्मनी ने बहुत आसानी से ग्रीस और यूगोस्लाविया को कैप्चर कर लिया था. Then there was this invasion of Soviet Union. It was a clash between Germany and USSR. This is also known as Operation Barbarossa, and it was the largest invasion in history, which began in 22 June 1941. The Axis forces overestimated 4 million soldiers advanced rapidly deep into the Soviet Union, and by late November, the Axis power had reached the line of the Leningrad, Moscow, at the cost of about 23% of casualties. जर्मनी को जो है ना कोई अंदाज़ा नहीं था कि सोवियत यूनियन इतना बड़ा है, और उसका जो साइज़ है ना, दैट्स वेरी डिफ़िकल्ट टू इन्वेट. सो जर्मनी army had underestimated the size of Soviet army as well, and its ability to draft a new troop. So Soviet ने भी counter attack किया था, and it pushed the Axis back, which became Germany's first major defeat in World War II. The continuation of this war, the Soviet invasion of Soviet Union, also between the Finland and Soviet Union, it began in on June 25, and there were Soviet air attacks shortly after the beginning of the Operation Barbarossa. The D-Day, this was a famous D-Day after the US troops had liberated the Italian capital of Rome, and by autumn 1944 Germany was surrounded from all sides, and there were allied air strikes on German industrial facilities, and particularly the oil reservoirs जितने भी थे. So there's this last point of this European theater, एंड ये था नॉर्मैंडी इन्वेजन, ठीक है. इन 1944 ब्रिटिश एंड अमेरिकन फोर्सेस लॉन्च्ड अ D-Day invasion, ठीक है, लैंडिंग इन जर्मनी. फाइनली they made efforts to land in Germany and occupied France via coast of Normandy, and then soon the German army was forced to retreat from the sides as well, and thus by early 1945 allied forces were closing on Germany from both sides, east and west. क्योंकि the Soviets were the first to reach Germany capital Berlin, and Germany surrounds were surrendered in 1945 shortly after the suicide of Adolf Hitler. एडोल्फ ने एडोल्फ हिटलर ने तब भी सरेंडर नहीं किया था, उसने एंड में सुसाइड कर लिया था. And that was the time when war was war, this great war ended from both the fronts, the eastern front and the western front, and from the Pacific theater and the European theater. So, this was all from me till now in this part 2. The other part 3 will deal with the topic the fall of Japan and the fall of Germany. So, stay connected until I upload the next part 3. I hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to my channel and like this video. Your little support means everything. So, see you in the next video. Bye.